Okay, I'm going to make a trade recap on today. I had a pretty good day. I took one not so good trades that I think I screwed up on, and then followed up with my biggest ever winning trade, which was really cool considering that the market has been a bit choppy and slow recently. So it just goes to show that if you're patient, you can find some really good opportunities, even when it doesn't come across all that easy. So we'll go through it. There's a lot of links back to the last video I made on um, why these periods can actually be a bit better. And yeah, let's go through it. So the watch list I had today, again, it was a little bit bare, and the reason for that is we haven't had many stocks that have really made these big moves higher. Um, the ones that have tend to have really been on a little bit lower volume than I'd like to see and have really been very low volume over the past few days. So even like we take this as a good example on AACG, which didn't quite make my watch list in the end, but it's a good one to start off with. Um, the volume on these is so low. Like this is not very easy to trade at all. With a $2 stock with a 5-cent spread is not really what you want to be looking for. So it has been a bit bare recently. A lot of the stocks I have on here, actually, AACG is more if it can pick up momentum back into $3, and then we can look at the backside. For now, the volume's just too low. I was watching BTCS, and I'm a little bit annoyed at myself with this. It came down to, I think, because there isn't all that much out there, I was kind of clutching a little bit at what I could find. And BTCS, technically, going into today, you could say, well, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days green. That's what I looked at. But the reality is, yesterday was the breakout day, and my rule is that after a breakout day, the next day I don't want to touch it, purely because this here will have gained so many, so much momentum, and so many people coming in to see what's going on. It's going to be on all the scanners that there's quite a high probability that in the morning it's going to be very congested and choppy. Um, you're either going to just have a lot of buyers coming in and it ripping higher, and then even when it does pull back, it's going to be met with a lot of people trying to dip buy it. So my rule is that day two, I don't actually want to be looking at this. So I kind of screwed up on the fact that I did, and that did actually cost me a loss today. DWAC was very interesting. This is one that, again, being very strict, this should not have even been on watch. I'm not trying to long anything right now, and although this has a really nice potential to be a breakout trade, I don't like it long, and we haven't had enough of a move higher. I would really like to have seen this push to 70, 75, 80 today, and then look for a short tomorrow or on Friday. ISIG didn't quite meet enough of my criteria, but I think it is a decent enough example of a stock that could have made my watch list as it sells off now. Interesting. Essentially, we've had this move higher, and if you find stocks that have recently had this kind of like big surge in momentum and then pull back, and then they've had this again, you'll tend to find that sort of goes in a bit of a like almost like a wave, really. I think the ABCD patterns, however people want to describe them. Essentially, the first move is the real move, you get a pullback, and then the next time it makes a move, all the people will remember this and will therefore try to get in it, but it won't be as many, and that just kind of continues. And you'll find people trying to say, well, if I can buy in here, we've consolidated for a bit. If I buy here and we then get the quote unquote the real breakout, the real move where we take this out and run, they're in a really good position. Um, that doesn't very often happen because the reason these companies have these awful longer term charts where they're just downtrending and then we'll have these spikes is normally because they are awful companies, maybe not awful companies, but are not particularly strong companies. And these pops here are very often just short squeezes where they pop up on news, shorts getting a bit too early, and they squeeze up. So when you see this, there is always potential for a backside short on these because we know that there are going to be people piling in long that shouldn't really be long the stock, or no one should really be long the stock long term. So there was maybe an opportunity there. And then finally, LQDA. This one I don't actually love, even though it's given me the biggest winner I've ever had. We'll go through that shortly. I don't love this one as much as I would do normally. It's it's really borderline as to whether it's a good enough daily chart. We have got this clear downtrend, and it is, clearly not a particularly strong company. If it was trading in the 20s, 25s, 30s, even as high as almost $40 for a long time, for it to then now be trading at $6, it's probably not all that good. And there's when you have that, you have got all these potential bag holders from in here. However, over the past year, this has been a particularly strong stock. So I am wary of that. That being said, because of the long-term downtrend, there will be some people who are bag holding on this potentially. There will be people who bought it in here, um, and this breakout has been way bigger than they're expecting, and it's getting very very emotional if they've still got a position. And also when it did have this move higher, I know there was quite a bit of interest on it on the day that it gapped up, and these days subsequently had quite a bit of interest purely because nothing really has been moving recently. So there will be longs in this, and I still liked it for a potential backside. The biggest thing on this is there hasn't really been a big sell-off. If we look at the move going into sort of to this period here, there hasn't really been any significant selling. There's been a few times where you've got sort of like a sell-off into close accompanied by a sell-off at the open, but we haven't had this like sharp big selling yet, which is normally indicated that there are still a lot of longs involved. So if we move on to BTCS, I'll bring open this one so we can see the whole thing. There we go. So BTCS was a pretty bad trade on my behalf, purely because it's a day two, so I shouldn't even be touching this. Where I took it in the end was right in here, and this is another example of where like this just is not a very good trade. I haven't given it my lowest grade because I don't think it's like a horrible trade where at the time I knew I shouldn't have been doing it, but we took out the previous day's high with some strength. We pulled back into VWAP. We held for a couple of minutes. As soon as I saw this seller's candle, I got really way too excited and decided to enter a short position to get in at VWAP. I got 639. This, as a, if we sort of like took this exact price action and completely disregarded where it was, in terms of like the previous close being quite a way below, the daily chart being a day two move, this exact price action I actually quite like. From a 1 minute chart perspective and the way it was trading, it's had an attempt to push higher. It's tried again, sellers have come in. That I like. The fact that the daily chart, it's essentially on breakout, it's day two of a breakout, and the fact that we are strong intraday and we have come from 575 and we have essentially moved, what's that, like 22%? 18%? 18%, and we're up from the previous close 21% almost. 21% nearly. This is too strong to be certain that the backside is in, and it's a pretty common mistake that I made before. Unfortunately, I didn't. The only thing I'd say is I recognized it when we were back around 660, and I thought I'm just going to leave it now, and I ended up stopping out right around here. I got out just before my trigger, or my stop market rather. So I ended up getting out for a $74 loss on that one. So not a crazy big loss or anything. It's just a little bit frustrating to look back and go, I've kind of fallen into a bit of a trap there. And this is why day two moves are so difficult. We have had a potential setup here where we flagged, pulled back, and came into VWAP, and now we should roll over. But buyers came back in, and this is the thing, on a stock like this where it's up a lot, it's hitting people's scanners. And when it hits people's scanners and it takes out this here at $7, anybody who took it short early, combined with all the people who are thinking, oh, this could break out this afternoon, they're going to buy into here. It's never going to go anywhere because it's the wrong time of day, and it's just it's not doing enough volume for it. But they squeeze the shorts out, so it makes it very very difficult to short. Really, this is one to be left alone. You could, I guess, wait for this to break, but we might just end up in the same situation. So really, the daily chart and the situation this is in, we needed to wait one more day for this. It may well be that tomorrow we gap down and have a really nice short on it, but today it was not all that good. Now we have LQDA, and this is a trade that I am very happy with on half of it, and although it was my biggest ever trade, it definitely could have been bigger. So the thought process coming into this, bring the daily up again, is we're extended. We've got that potential for it to sell off. Below 635 would be really nice. I think I got a little bit caught up in the big dumps that we've been having. I've seen these have, and forgot that realistically we're only up really $1.50 or so. So, and over quite a long period, so we probably aren't going to get as big of a move on this. But even still, that's for in a little bit. So I first of all jumped in short right in here. Happy with this entry. I took 800 shares initially at 661. I was risking to 671. We've had this pop off the open, tried to show some strength. There wasn't anything there. Sell back through VWAP. For me, I look at this and I say, if it goes like 15-minute, we're in the backsides, right? We've tried to break out a couple of times over this $7 mark. We rejected it. We sold off yesterday. We couldn't push again today. The backside is in. We have not yet had that big selling, so I'm expecting to see it come in at some point today, or it has the potential to come in today. So I jumped in with 800 shares at 661, risking around about $80, and then added a further 300. Actually, when we took out 650, and I put in a stop limit order. It wasn't filled immediately, so it did mean that both of these were free trades. They were both filled, adding liquidity. Where I made a mistake on this one was my initial plan was to try to wait for this 635 to break and then to catch the move down into the low sixes. And I actually had an order ready at 616, and that was a bit too ambitious. I had very big size at a very good average. When this took out 635 and gave this move down and it tagged 622, I should have at that point said, okay, I'm getting out of this for 627 or so. It would have been a 30-cent gain. I had 1,100 shares. I could have got the whole position out and ended up with essentially what I ended up with now anyway. Or I could have taken half out there, and it would have been, I'd have locked in like 150, 160, 170, maybe a little bit more than that if I'd taken 600. Yeah, about 180. So I let that come back against me and ended up taking 500 off at 632. And as it started to curl, I realized that I should have locked in a lot more here, and I decided to take another 300 out in the 630s and got 637, which meant I had locked in $190 on the trade. The rest was at scratch. So at that point, it's like, well, I've locked in a good trade. Probably could have made a bit more out of it, but it's fine. So yeah, I got some out there and then a bit more out around here. And then I just put in a range order for 608, I think it was. Let's have a look where it was filled. Yeah, 608 and 658. And then we got the crack. And the big thing I want to talk about here is the volume that came in. This is the, I don't know if I can draw this in here. Yeah. This volume here is essentially what my strategy is based off of. These are all the stops from the last few days. We have one in here as well. So we'd have had some people stopping up below 635. And then all of this volume that we came in here is probably the people who bought it in around this point over the past few days, getting out of their positions. So the stops were hit, big selling comes in, and I got out at 608 as we came into the final support. Just to bring over the chart on this. Just confirm, got short here at 661, added here at 648, got out 500 here at 632, got some more out at 637 and the rest at 608. It was a good trade, but I really should have made quite a bit more on it. Didn't execute the exits as good as I probably should have done. But all in all, it was a good trade. We're not going to nail everything, so that's what it is. And yeah, bringing over the P&L, I made $342.09, which is my biggest trade today on LQDA, and I lost $74 essentially on BTCS. So all in all, that's about a 270 gain. Obviously, we've got some fees in there and a few borrows, which I'll try to get back, but you're not always going to get them back, and even if you do get a rebate, it's not always that much. But pretty good day, and hopefully, we are seeing a few more good opportunities. BTCS, like I said, if we look at the daily, is starting to look a bit extended, so the backside on this could be nice. Um, and then VINE today had a really strong move, so I'm hoping that this can give maybe one final push tomorrow and set up for a short. Um, and something like DWAC, if that can push again later on today or tomorrow, that could as well. So we might begin to see some better opportunities coming into the market, which would be really nice. Um, if we can get the conditions a little bit better and a few more opportunities do set up, I think the likelihood of me taking trades like I did today on BTCS will go down because I'll be um, more inclined to be patient knowing there are going to be good opportunities rather than just trying to find anything. So yeah, so that was today. It was a pretty good day. We'll hopefully continue for the rest of the week. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.